Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be making spaghetti with meatballs, but we're going to be doing it two ways. First, we're going to be making it the more traditional way with beef or darker meat, and then we're also going to be trying to make this with ground chicken. So let's hop to the kitchen and get started. Alright, to make meatballs you're going to need 1 pound of beef. Next, you're going to add in 1 clove of garlic. I used 2 because my cloves were small. Follow that up by adding in 1 large egg. Next, you're going to need 1/3 cup of Italian breadcrumbs. Follow that up with a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And to keep these meatballs nice and juicy, add in 1/3 cup of ricotta and 1/2 teaspoon of olive oil. Now grab yourself a can of San Marzano tomatoes, and we're just going to crack the lid on this and then just sprinkle in a little bit of the juice from these tomatoes. Now we're not pouring any of the solids of the tomatoes in at this point. We're just taking in about 2 teaspoons of this sauce and adding it into our meatballs. We are going to be using those tomatoes in a little while for our sauce, but right now we need to mix these meatballs together. So either just dive right in with your hands like I'm doing, or put on a pair of gloves if you're squeamish about this, but you want to incorporate all of the ingredients thoroughly, being sure that all of it is evenly distributed throughout the meatballs. And you don't want to overmix here because it can make the meatballs tough, so just do it enough until it looks like everything is incorporated. And as you can see when I pick it up in my hands here, it comes together nicely, but it is not completely incorporated here, so I'm going to keep working at it. This is what your meatball mixture should look like when it is ready. Now that our beef mixture is done, let's make our chicken mixture. Add in 1 pound of ground chicken. And same as last time, we're going to be adding in 1 egg, 1/3 cup of Italian breadcrumbs, 1/3 cup of ricotta cheese, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, double what we did originally. Don't freak out about it. Then we're going to be adding in a little bit of basil and a few shakes of oregano. Don't go too crazy here, just a little bit. Then 1/2 teaspoon of olive oil. Now, to make these chicken ones a little bit better, I'm going to be doing something non-traditional here, which is probably going to make some Italian punch a hole through their computer screen, but we're going to be adding in about 1/2 teaspoon of dark soy sauce. This is going to add a little bit of umami flavor to this and bring out some darker notes. Now, before you see the next ingredient, Italians, do not freak out. Grab a pillow and scream into it if you have to. I know this isn't how your great-great-grandma made it, so we're going to be adding in 1/2 teaspoon of sriracha sauce. Now these are done and they are ready to be mixed together just like you did the last time. Then you can roll them out into balls and put them on a baking sheet. Now I will say that per pound of meat you get about 20 meatballs. So if you want to be able to feed enough people here, I would recommend, if you like to have enough meatballs on your plate, you're only going to be able to get about 5 if you're trying to feed 4 people with 1 pound of meat. So if you want to have more than that, I recommend making 2 pounds of meatballs at a time, because if you are like me, you want to have more than 5 meatballs in your plate of spaghetti. So you're just going to roll these out on a parchment lined baking sheet. Try to keep them pretty even in size, but it can vary a little bit. You just want these to be able to cook the same all the way through, ensuring that they are done in the oven with the amount of time that we are going to be cooking them. So as you can see, the chicken ones are lighter than the beef as expected, but it will be interesting to see how these turn out and their differences in taste once we are done cooking them. Once you have all of your meatballs rolled out, you are going to cook them in your oven that has been preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to cook them for about 20 minutes, and you can turn the broiler on at the end to get some nice browning. In the meantime, let's make our sauce. So, if you want a thicker sauce, I would recommend chopping 2 onions like I did here. Now I will say that if you're used to canned spaghetti sauce, you'll probably want to go with 1/2 of a yellow onion or 1 yellow onion. I went with 2 because I like a chunkier sauce, but you do you. So we're going to cut this by slicing it, and then I cut my slices into quarters. So as you can see here, I'm just going to cut it once down the middle and then turn my knife sideways and cut it the other way. Now peel 4 to 5 cloves of garlic by hitting it with a knife. After you have removed the skin from your garlic cloves, you're going to take your garlic and mince it up pretty finely here. You don't want to go too small, but the goal is to get this small enough so it infuses into the olive oil when it is cooking, but you also want a big enough bite out of this garlic to remain in order to provide flavor while you're eating your sauce. Now you're going to cook your onions in a splash of olive oil until they become translucent like you see here. Just give those a quick stir, and the goal is to get these nice and soft so they're not crunchy in your sauce. After that, you're going to add in your garlic that you chopped up, so you're just going to bring that over to the stove and slide that right in off your cutting board. Super simple and easy. And then you're going to mix that around, and we're going to be adding in a 1/4 cup of olive oil here. Now this is going to bring the temperature down when you're adding in this room temperature ingredient, but you do want your olive oil to get hot enough to where it's going to help cook these vegetables a little bit. I will say you can add a little bit of salt here as well as a little bit of black pepper to help season as you go along. But you do not want this oil to get hot to where it's going to brown your garlic. Now you're going to be adding in your San Marzano tomatoes. You will have to take these out of the can and squish them with your hand, and they will fall right apart into the texture that you see here, and then add that to your pot along with the juice out of the bottom of the can. Now you're going to mix this around and just bring it up to a simmer, and as you can see, it's getting nice and steamy here. Depending on how thick you like your sauce, I would recommend letting it go for about 10 minutes for a normal consistency, about 15 or 20 for a thicker consistency. Here I'm just adding in a few shakes of basil, oregano, and black pepper, plus 2 pinches of sugar to help curb the acidity from these tomatoes. Now, for your spaghetti noodles, you're going to bring a pot of water up to a boil, but add in salt before it boils and stir that around, dissolve it, and taste it. You want your water to be extremely salty and taste like seawater. This is going to make the flavor of your noodles even better, and it might seem crazy, but this is how you are supposed to do it. So cook your noodles to the package instruction, and I would recommend 2 servings of noodles per person. Alright guys, let's taste test these meatballs and spaghetti. So first I'm going to try the beef meatball right here. This is steaming hot, so man, that is really good. We did it right this time. Still nice and juicy and moist on the inside of the meatball, but it's got that nice crust. It's got a nice peppery and salty flavor that you'd imagine would be in a meatball. But I am interested to try the chicken version to see how it stacks up and compares to that, because that's going to be hard to beat. So I did put 1 chicken meatball on this because I am meal prepping this to have throughout the week. So let's try the chicken meatball. That's really good too. I don't really have a favorite on these. They're both different in a way. It's kind of surprising because obviously we use a lot of the similar ingredients but a few different touches to the chicken. And I think that this one, it really does stack up. So if you're looking to save money in terms of not using beef, I would definitely recommend using chicken. I think that soy sauce gives it a nice umami flavor, so a nice saltiness to it. And this sauce is really good as well. It's on point. Tomatoey, got the onions in there. This is so good. I will say definitely add the sugar to this because San Marzano tomatoes are very acidic and it does need that little help from the sugar, at least in my opinion. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like to see me create food like this, hit that like button down below, comment something that you want me to cook, and I'll see you guys on the next one.